Hey everyone, Dr. Aaron Moreland here from Vallejo Health and Wellness Center in Eden Prairie. Today we're going to be talking about heart health. The reason we're talking about heart health, it's February, it's Valentine's Day coming up soon, and so hearts are on our mind. Probably not so much regarding the function, the physiology of our heart, probably more so the aspect of our heart, the emotional side of it. So our heart, we all know that it's a pump, but I think that a lot of us also know that it's more than just a pump, because we can all remember times from relationships, maybe breakups, maybe losing a loved one, that our heart gets broken. And so obviously our heart doesn't actually get broken, but you think about it, where's that pain? That pain is right in our heart. And so it's more than just a pump, but today we're going to talk about it from the aspect of a physiology, a medical, that it is a pump. So what exactly does it do? It literally just pumps the blood around your body. It doesn't even oxygenate the blood. It doesn't bring nutrients into the blood. All it does is make sure that that blood is getting to all the different parts of our body. But it's very important. The reason we know it's very important is you cannot live without your heart. You wouldn't live very long if your heart wasn't working the way it's supposed to. And we know that there's a lot of problems that can happen with the heart. And so let's talk about some of the things that we're seeing when it comes to heart health. Probably the biggest one that we all are aware of is that people can have a heart attack. And a lot of times this is called the silent killer. Many people have no idea that that's going on in their heart. They don't know that there's a problem in their heart. And the first sign that they have a heart issue is by having a heart attack. And unfortunately, many people, the first sign then is death. And that's not how you want to find out if you have a health issue. I have a friend of mine in a Bible study with me. They go down to Florida every year in the wintertime. Last year, they were down in Florida, and he had mentioned to his wife that he was having some pain in his chest, and she said, "Oh, we better go to the doctor." And he wasn't sure if that was a good idea or not, but as all smart men know, it's good to listen to your wives. And so they did go to the hospital. Well, they did a bunch of tests on him, and really the tests came back all normal, showing that there wasn't a problem. But yet he still had these symptoms. And so one of the nurses at the hospital said, "You know what, why don't we just do a few more tests." I think they tested the blood again. And when they tested the blood, this time it showed that there was a problem, that he actually was in the middle of having a heart attack. And if that nurse hadn't done that, more than likely he would have went home, felt that he still had those symptoms, but felt good because they told him everything was normal. That he didn't need to do anything about it, and yet he was having a heart attack. So I know he's very appreciative of that nurse pushing for that extra test, or to do that test again, and he's very grateful that the doctors were able to find that and then treat it, because he had no idea that that was what was going on. And so heart attacks are very much a part of heart disease, but a lot of times we don't even know that we're having it. What a heart attack truly is when an artery to the heart itself gets blocked off, and then what happens is that blood can't get to a part of the heart. The heart's a muscle. It needs lots of oxygen. It needs nutrients. If it can't get that, then that muscle will literally start to die, and that's truly what a heart attack is. So it can be because of an artery is completely blocked off. It can be because a particle broke off, like a plaque broke off, and then it clogs an artery and then causes it so that part of the heart doesn't get the oxygen or the nutrients that it needs. So that's one that we're very familiar with. I think a lot of people don't realize that a better or a bigger health issue that we have in America when it comes to heart disease is high blood pressure. In fact, according to the American Heart Association, they say that about 46% of all adult Americans are dealing with hypertension. So when we look at our blood pressure should be 120/80. That's what they say is the normal, or that's what the average person does have. And that can vary depending on what you're doing, but at rest, 120/80 is what we should see. Hypertension then would be defined as anything where the systolic, which is that higher number, is 140, or the diastolic is above 90. So 140/90 would be considered hypertension, and 46, they estimate that 46% of all adult Americans are dealing with hypertension. That's 1 out of every 2 Americans that are dealing with this. So that's another issue that we can see. Other issues that we see with heart disease is just more that cardiovascular disease. We start looking at the blood vessels. Well, a few things can happen. One is you can get arteries that become blocked, okay, and that can be because of plaques. It can start to narrow that artery, and then it can be blocked. Other is that the atherosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries, and that can be because of plaques. But basically what happens is that blood vessel becomes less flexible, and a lot of times that will show up as hypertension or that high blood pressure that we talked about. So that's another thing that can happen, cardiovascular. So when you look at some of the main issues when it comes to heart health, one can be that you can have a heart attack where not enough blood flow to a part of the heart. Another can be atherosclerosis where you have hardening of the arteries. Another can be just blockage of the arteries. And then another thing that we can see is that valves can become a problem. And so a valve can become worn out, a valve can get damage to it, and then those valves can be leaky, and that's a really important thing to get taken care of because it can create pooling of blood, and then a clot can form, and then a person can either have a stroke or, again, they could have a heart attack. Another thing that we're seeing is that our heart is actually, the reason it fires is because we have an internal electrical mechanism, neurologic mechanism that causes that heart to just pump on its own. And so those nerves that go to the heart, they can become damaged, they can start malfunctioning, and then people will get all kinds of different things. They'll get arrhythmias, they might get where the top of the heart is not working the way it's supposed to, so the atrium, they call it, the ventricles may not contract the way they're supposed to because that electrical current going into the heart is not conducting well, or the nerve itself is not firing properly, and then people will get a racing heart. They call that tachycardia. A person can get skipping a heartbeat. They can get issues where the heart doesn't really contract the way it's supposed to, and these can all be problems with the internal electrical system of the heart. And so there is another thing that can go wrong with the heart. So you can see that even though it's a pump, it does have it's a lot of complexity to it, and there's a lot of things that could go wrong with it. So it's really important to get that taken care of.